What are you doing to build those connections and build that mutual respect in your classrooms? Okay, just think about this. It's a little bit of a test time, but I'm not going to make you write it down. How many, oh, have you raised your hand? How many of you can name the 5 wealthiest people in the United States? How many of you can name the last 5 winners of the Miss America contest? Last 5 Heisman Trophy winners? Ooh, all right, yes. We won't make you do it, because we wouldn't know the answer. Tough. Yet all these people received major fame and recognition. Try this one. How many of you can name a teacher that encouraged you when you were a student moving on? How many of you can name 3 friends that helped you through a tough time? People who made you feel appreciated and special just by being around them. You know, that's encouragement. How are we encouraging those people? Do we notice? There's an old book from when I was first teaching, and I can't remember the exact title, but it's something about the geranium on the windowsill died and the teacher didn't even notice. You know, are you noticing things around you? Are you noticing when a coworker is all of a sudden very quiet for a while, for a period of time? Can you give them a little encouragement? You know, is something going on? Is everything okay? How about when a student who's always been very bright and vivacious and out there, you know, like just a great student, all of a sudden makes a switch? Are you noticing it and saying, hey, is something going on? Can I help you? That encouragement. And then the final one in the CARES acronym is student-centeredness. And theoretically, we would have really liked to put that first because we think that's what's most important. But then the acronym spells SCARE, and it just doesn't work when you're trying to talk about building a culture that's collaborative and good. Is your school, one of my colleagues says, run by the ABCs, administration by convenience? Or is it run for what's best for kids? You know, is it what's convenient for the adults that's making the changes in your school? Or is it what's best for the kids? And it's tough being a teacher. It's tough being an administrator. It's tough working in schools these days. We have so much accountability. We have so much coming down on top of us. But we have to remember why we're there, and that is for those kids that show up. Another area that takes knowledge, skills, and dispositions is your curriculum, instruction, and assessment. Building relationships between students and ideas. Can you say that in your school, the curriculum is challenging, high expectations with support for all, that the instruction is engaging? If you were to go in your classrooms, kids are really involved in the lesson, like the science lesson I described. That there's a balanced assessment, that you're doing both assessment of learning, which may be your state tests, but you're also doing assessment for learning, which are the short-term things to help you figure out where you need to go. We all have to accept responsibility for student achievement. Farmer Brown was having a birthday, and the animals were all getting together in order to plan him a party, and the chicken and the pig were put in charge of the breakfast. And they were kicking around ideas, and the chicken goes, I've got a great idea, we'll have ham and eggs. And the pig looks at the chicken and says, you know, that's easy for you. For you, it's a contribution. For me, it's a commitment. You know, are you contributing to your school, or are you committed to making your school better? Are you committed to helping students achieve where they need to be achieving? You know, when we look at curriculum, is it challenging? How are you working with your elementary feeder schools and the high school? We've got to go beyond 3 separate islands. I'll tell you what, you can have absolutely the most incredible middle schools in the country. And if you are sending those kids to high schools that are not achieving, that are not working, that do not have the same vision of excellence that your middle schools do, all that work is going to be lost. Not all of it, but a good portion of it will be lost. You know, if you've got fabulous elementary schools that are really pushing the kids up, and the kids are doing really well, and they go into middle schools that are not achieving and not performing well and have a negative culture. All the work those elementary people did isn't as effective. We've got to stop looking at, these are my kids, I've got them for middle school, these are elementary, these are high school. We have to accept responsibility and start looking at how we can work together as a system. And I know it gets hard in large systems. But are you articulating, are you having conversations with elementary, your 5th and 6th grade teachers with your, 6th and 7th grade, depending on how your grade structure is set up? Do your kids know what those essential learnings are that you're trying to get them just between grade levels in your middle school? Is your curriculum relevant? This middle school I was at in Oregon, we sat down with a student focus group and talked to them. And I'd been in a classroom, and it was a social studies classroom, and the teacher had obviously had wonderful relationships with the kids. She was usually mostly a lecture format, and it concerned me a little bit because she had such great relationships, and I could see such potential there. And it also happened to be somebody who was a teacher who got through my middle school, so I'd known her since she was a 6th grader, so I was really rooting for her to do well. And we sat down with the focus groups, and we said, how do your teachers make your learning relevant? And one of the first things that came out of a student's mouth was about this particular teacher and how she's teaching us, history and things. She says, like, for example, we've been studying the Magna Carta, and she's showing us how that impacted the way we are set up today. And so she's always talking about what they did in the past and what it means to us today and how we live and how our laws are put together. And I was like, yes, Kelly, she got it. Is there some interdisciplinary? Are you integrating it? Do science teachers know what's going on in math classes, in language arts classes? I was in a middle school a few months ago, and every classroom, every team posted what the topics were that they were teaching on big calendars in the staff room. And so like their music teacher was saying, oh yeah, I go in and I look and see what's being studied, so if I can pull something out of that time period that they're studying in social studies, I can tie it into music. And the language arts teachers thought, oh yeah, they were doing this in science, and we were doing this kind of research, so I can tie it together. They knew what was happening. Is your instruction engaging? If I were to go into your middle schools, how many different types of instruction would I see on a regular basis? I won't ask you to raise your hands. How many, but think about this, if you would fall into 1 to 3, it's the same old stuff. You get bored as a kid. You ever tried shadowing a student to see what it's like, what their day is like? Or are there multiple, are there 10 or more instructional strategies? I was in a high school once, 9th grade team, and they teamed with their kids. They actually followed their kids for 2 years. They took them from 9th grade to 10th grade. And I said, what do you do in team time? And he said, oh, we sit down and we talk about the instructional strategies we're going to use. And so if the social studies teacher needs to give them some information in a hurry and he's going to be using a lecture, I won't do that in the science class. I'll plan a lab so that they're active hands-on. And the language arts teacher says, well, we're going to be doing some research, so I'm going to take them down to the library. And the math teacher says, oh, well, I'm going to do this and that. And so every week, they make sure that these students are exposed to a variety of teaching and learning styles. Is that happening in your schools? That should say balanced assessment. I'm sorry, I missed that. Does your assessment inform your instruction, or is it all about the state tests? And I know from being in Oregon that that's an end-all and be-all that we're always worried about when scores get published in the paper and everything. NASSP has a program called Breakthrough Schools. In fact, there's a couple of middle schools in Georgia that have that distinction. And there's a school in Arkansas that got it. He's going to be speaking at our Capitol Hill briefing, and we were asking the principal, what did you do to raise your test scores? And he says, we eliminated half the curriculum.